Hello everyone, today I'm going to make you one of my specialties and one of my personal favorites. We're going to make a chicken roasted in the oven with rosemary, with mashed potatoes and all the trimmings. I'll show you how I make my gravy. It's a perfect meal for a cold winter's day like it is today here in New Jersey. So come on, let me show you how we're going to do it. I'm going to chop up some of these vegetables and I'm going to scatter them around the chicken and put a few of them inside just for flavor. So we have some celery, some carrots, some shallot, garlic, and of course, fresh rosemary. I have the oven preheated to 385. I like to cook it at a little higher temperature like that for the first hour, and then I'll knock it back probably to 350 afterwards. Our little guy here is, well, I guess it's a little girl, is 4.89 pounds, so it's almost 5 pounds. You can calculate about 15 to 20 minutes per pound depending on your oven. So right now I'm going to unwrap this, rinse it off, clean it up, and then we'll move on. As you can see, I'm wearing gloves. You don't have to wear gloves when you handle a chicken, but just make sure you clean up afterwards really well. Anything that touches a raw chicken needs to be cleaned up really well. So I'm removing the little giblet bag here. I don't use them. You can put them in your gravy if you want to. I usually just discard them. So now I'm just going to rinse this out completely, and then I'm going to salt it, and then we'll arrange it in the pan, and I'll show you how we continue from there. Okay, so now I'm just going to pat this dry with some paper towels. And this is the bottom of the chicken. This is the breast side up. Now most people cook with the breast side up. One time I accidentally did it breast side down and it came out unbelievably delicious. So I just do it that way from now on. So I'm just gonna clean this up a little bit like this, salt it, and then we'll put it in the pan, and then I'll show you how we put all the vegetables around it. I put a few of each kind of veg inside the cavity, and I'm going to put one of these small rosemary sprigs inside. And then I'm going to put the rest of the vegetables sprinkled around the outside. So when this makes its own chicken broth, it will be flavored with the vegetables. So we have garlic here, celery always works really well, carrots for a little sweetness, and then the shallot really makes a lovely flavor. So just sprinkle them around. They don't have to be in any kind of order. They're going to work with the juices that come out of the chicken. I'm also going to add a little bit of chicken broth to this just to make sure that it's not dry in the beginning to give it a head start, and I'm going to sprinkle the top with some dried herbs. Okay, so I have some chicken broth here. You can also use water. I'm just doing a little bit around the outside because I don't want him to stick immediately before he starts making his own juice. And I have some Italian seasoning here. I vary this from time to time. Sometimes I'll use French seasoning. Sometimes I'll just use thyme. I'm just shaking this all over. I like to load it up. And now that looks like a lot. And now the best part is we put the rosemary around it. So the rosemary really gives a wonderful flavor to the gravy. Actually, I'm going to pull a little bit of this off and put some of it in here. So there's a little bit in the cavity, and then there's some here and here for the gravy. So now I'm just going to wrap this up with some foil and put it in the oven. I'm going to check it in an hour to make sure it's not drying out, and then I might lower the temperature as well. So here we go. Okay, I almost forgot, I like to put butter. Sometimes I squish it under the skin, but sometimes I just like to put it in between the wings, and then I put one in the little hole back here and one in the cavity. And then after it's cooked for an hour, when we look at it, we might put a little bit more on top. So now I'm going to put the foil on here. I like to do it sideways like this, so that it automatically makes a little tent. I'm just going to put a little hole in there. I'm just going to add a little hole in here with my knife, just so some of the air escapes. I don't want it actually sitting on the chicken, so I like to puff it up a little bit. And in the oven we go. It's been 1 hour, and we're going to take the paper off. see what this little guy looks like. He's coming along nicely, but I think he still needs some more time. So before I put the bird back in the oven, I'm going to baste it a little. Wow, look at those juices. The best part of roasting a chicken, besides eating it of course, is how the house smells while you're waiting for it to cook. It's been another 20 minutes and I think it's time to cook without the paper on, so I'm basting it again. Get those lovely juices all over. And now I'm gonna put a little butter on top. It'll probably melt right away, but it helps it to brown. And we're gonna put it back in the oven without the top. Here's our beautiful chicken out of the oven. I wish you could smell my house. I removed the chicken and put it on a cutting board, and we're going to let it rest for 5 to 10 minutes. And now, with all this juice and veg that's in here, I'm going to strain this into a pot. So we leave the veg behind, but we get the broth. So here's the broth from the chicken. I'm going to add a little bit of flour, a little at a time. And I'm going to bring this to a boil. But I'm whisking in this flour till we get it to the right consistency. Now if you don't have enough broth, you can always add some chicken broth to this. I think I'm going to add some chicken broth to ours. So I added a little bit more broth. I'm adding a little more flour. And then we're just whisking it in. And you want to make sure you bring this back to a boil. You don't want to have it taste like flour. And I did add some broth, so we want to cook that as well. So I'm going to add a little bit more flour so we get the kind of consistency that we want of gravy. Helps to have a little whisk like this, a little wire whisk. So let's just let that come up to heat. Wasn't that delicious? Thank you for joining me. I hope you try this recipe for yourself. Please let me know in the comments down below if you do. And don't forget to join me on Sundays at 11 a.m. Eastern Time for my live show, live from the Dolce Vita Cafe. Don't forget to share this video with your friends. Subscribe if you haven't already. Give me a thumbs up, do all the things, and I will see you very soon. Bye.